elevating your well-being as a creative. So as we think about that, like what does actually like wellness mean to you um, as creative women, and just generally, just as a human? Like, how do you identify wellness? Both of you are on mute, by the way. There you go.
Oh, you can go ahead, Kizia.
Oh, okay. When I think about wellness, I'm loving the comment section. There's so much to be able to relate to, from goofiness to self-care, to being intentional, grace. Wellness as an entrepreneur, specifically for me, is about balance. I think when you are operating in your purpose, it's so easy to commit 100% of yourself to that purpose and to that goal, sometimes at the expense of self-care. I always like to tell entrepreneurs, and I always like to set as reminders for myself, is that you can't pour from an empty cup. You got to take care of you first. And so usually how I think about wellness is structure. So how I live my day is I wake up every single day and I start with affirmations. I know that there was a time when I used to wake up every single day and the first thing I did was pick up that phone and get on Instagram, get on CNN, see what's happening in the world. But first, I check in with myself, prayer, and also affirmations, just to speak life over my day, speak life into my goals. Secondly, in regard to structure, I will make a list of those things that I have to do during the day. They're priority lists, the things that I could get done that day, the things that I could get done that week, and also the things that I can get done that month. And then third, I began operationalizing their goals. And one of the things that I think has been extremely helpful for me is to use tools that help organize the list. And then finally, at the end of the day, I set a stop time. So I no longer work 9 to 5, but that doesn't mean that I can't stop at a specific time. For me, that stopping time is about 9 o'clock. Sometimes it's 8 o'clock. I also set boundaries so that I can create space for family and friends. And so for me, I have 2 days during the week where I end work a little earlier, and I'm intentional about calling my mom. I'm intentional about having dinner with my friends. And there are weekends that are set aside where I have the whole Saturday and Sunday just to spend with my family. Again, I know as entrepreneurs, we'll work weekends and holidays, and we'll say that that sacrifice can justify not spending that time, but that time is absolutely important to maintain that personal connection. So, again, wellness for me is all about creating structure and making sure that you create time for self care.
Beautiful. I love that. And I think B might have walked off for a second. Oh no, B's back. B, how do you define wellness? You're a multifaceted creative. You're a co-founder. You're a mom as well. So like, how do you define wellness? How does this actually show up for you in your life? And how? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. This is such a huge topic for me. Wellness has been a really big, just area that I've worked on in my life for a really long time. And definitely spent my early 20s learning as many sort of like healing modalities and methods to just be good. So I have to say I got a lot of things in my toolkit. But at the end of the day, after now almost 40 years of working on myself and living in my body, I guess I found the few things that really make a big difference for me in my life, and it's eating as healthily as possible, best possible food I can find and get in my body and make myself. So it's eating my own food, eating whole foods, eating completely plant based for me. That makes a huge difference. Um, and sleep. So food, sleep, 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours if I can get it. You know, um, Kezia is on point with that, like not getting on Instagram as soon as I wake up in the morning. So definitely taking that morning to transition into the waking hours and the working day. And hydration. It's like wellness is like this huge topic now that can be so many different things, like sound baths and all this kind of stuff,
Mhm.
which can be amazing as well. But what I found is that it's really like the basics: food, sleep, water, and meditation on positivity. Which I think can combat a lot of other issues. And yeah, for me as a mom, that's become even more apparent how important those things are, because at the end of the day, that's what my child needs. Before she needs to know like her ABCs and one, two, threes and all those types of things. Like before she's even walking, um, she needs those basic needs taken care of. And so, like, taking care of her for these last 2 years has been like an active meditation in wellness for me. It's been like learning how to refocus myself, so that I'm aware of things like, does she need to sleep? Is she hungry? And does she need something? To me, it's just shown me what it means to be human, like at its core or at its baseline. Like, what do we need as people? And there are a lot of things that are extraneous. There are a lot of things we busy ourselves with. I would say there are a lot of things I've busied myself with in life that in the end weren't that important or aren't that important. And if I were to let things like my health slip, none of those things would have any meaning to me. So, um, yeah, it's like wellness is a big topic, but I think it really just comes down to like loving and taking care of ourselves and our bodies, you know?
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. You mentioned, like Kizia said something that I've for the last year, right? Because I'm also, I think maybe you be, I don't know if I told you, I'm certified as a mindfulness meditation teacher. So normally, actually, for this wellness part of the accelerator, I usually facilitate through an exercise today. We actually have Alex will be doing that for us. I'm curious to know, like Kizia talked about what I was saying come up for me in the last year is like not pouring from an empty cup, right? We all do work with, for, and around people, right? So sometimes, like, you're capturing creative and telling a story, like visually telling a story for somebody, or making that story happen in a capacity or another, right? Kezia is equipping Black entrepreneurs with different tools, different resources to grow. So we think about, like, both of you have practices. I think Kezia actually has the book. I know you talked about like journaling. I love it. Kezia did pre-order a book. Thank you, last year. And I have the Entrepreneur's Handbook as well. Kezia's book. Please go buy that. I'm sure she'll drop a link. But thinking about, right, like your sort of foundational practices, what do you do daily now to take that to the next level, right? I run into B a lot. We live in the same neighborhood, close to each other, close by each other. So I'll run into B, we're in the proximity that we're at, there's only one Whole Foods. So I'll see B frequently just, on the street. I'm also plant-based, right? And so for me, that's, it's making like conscious decisions. So what conscious decisions do you make daily, if you will, if I could say elevate your well-being for the sake of your work and your creativity, not just for the sake of your well-being and like, hey, I'm just feeling good, right? But I'm feeling good. So now, in me being full and potentially feeling good, I can create, I can do my work. So what does that look like for you both of you on a daily basis to elevate or what are you doing to elevate your wellness and so that you can create your highest and your best? You're on mute.
I don't mind starting. The reason why I was looking over here, because I had to go get your book out of my library. So y'all support your friends, okay? We be all excited with the Ivy Park drop. Some of y'all looking at the Yeezy boots. We sharing that all on the story, trying to get a bot so we can get the first sale. Support your friends. Buy their products and services. I know that has nothing to do with the question asked, but I definitely wanted to be sure to say that. Um, Mine is deeply personal. So, yeah, I said don't pour from an empty cup. But one of the things that I'm learning to do as a recently full-time entrepreneur is give myself grace. And it may seem like such a simple concept, but it's difficult, especially when you're creative. When you're creative, you're really operating in a space of faith, right? You're conceptualizing things that people can't see yet. So you're having conversations with mom, dad, brother, sister, husband, wife. You're telling them this vision that they have. And sometimes they're looking at you with confusion because you're having a faith conversation, a vision conversation with someone who could only see with eyesight. But you're so convicted, you're so passionate that you know that this is something that you can materialize. What is faith? Materializing the substance of things hoped for, evidencing the things not yet seen. And sometimes that vision is so big, but the resources are so small, or that vision is so big, but to reach your highest height of whatever that is, you have to start small. And so I have these visions in my head. My creativity is out of this world, but I realize that it's a marathon, like Nipsey said, it's not a race. So I have to make sure that as I take these steps, right, that I don't miss the lessons and I don't miss the small wins on the road to a larger purpose. I'll give you an example. Um, Most recently we launched our night school where we teach people again the stuff that they should have taught in school. We had to build our own landing page in order to save money. We had to set up our own rooms in order to again save money. It wasn't perfect, but it was done. And it was so affirming to walk into the room and say, you know what, I would have loved to have like drapes coming down. I would have loved to have had like a live band performance. I would have loved to have had a certain type of chair, but at the end of the day, it was done. And seated in that purpose of the night school, people were still able to learn and also to educate themselves. And at the end, even though it didn't look exactly how the ultimate vision could look, we still got the job done. I think as entrepreneurs, when we give ourselves grace, then we can also extend grace to others. One of the things that people always ask me is, how come people don't buy Black? How come we get so upset at Black entrepreneurs when they can't deliver at the same way that Amazon does? Amazon can get me my package in 2.5 minutes. A Black owned business took 2.5 days, and now I'm upset. When we learn how to give grace to ourselves, I think it extends to those people in our circles. Then we're able to understand, right, the mother who is working on her business, but also trying to raise her children. We're able to understand why the hairdresser, the lash girl, was 10 minutes late because she may have a mother at home who she's taking care of. When we're able to find grace in ourselves, and it extends to our circle. So I know that that's not a lot of tips, but I think grace is an important thing for all of us to learn and understand.
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's so true. Extending grace to yourself is so important. I love what you said about like, getting things done. Because I feel like as a creative person, that's like one of the biggest blocks. It's like, oh, but it has to be perfect. It has to be a certain way. It has to look like the vision exactly. And that can definitely be a stumbling block. So I just really appreciate you mentioning that, like getting it done. It's finished. It happened. It may not be exactly the way you envisioned it, but it happened, and that's better than still waiting on that. So it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Kizia.
No problem.
Yeah, B, how do you actively, you have these things that you do routine wise. How are you actively like elevating every day, right? Like how are you challenging yourself when different things arise? Like you also and B, right? Because you talked about supporting Black businesses. Like I go and support Raj and B. I mean, they take amazing, the studio's amazing. It's always a good vibe. We always have good times there, right? But I recently got some, not recently, well, a couple months ago, I got some portraits done. But right when you're in the middle of either producing a shoot, or even creating, right? Like and something happens. I know this from formerly being a producer in the agency setting, right? Like what are things that you're doing to elevate on top of just your sort of normal routine? How do you navigate when things get challenging?
Yeah, I have to say, I feel very blessed to be in partnership. I think challenges just feel differently when you have a team or when you have someone you trust and someone who understands what you're doing. Better yet, someone who's on your team and doing it with you, where you have the same goal. But yeah, I have to say I'm really, really blessed to be in partnership because my husband balances me, and I mean not just in our like romantic relationship. I mean like in our working relationship in terms of like things like Angela was saying, like thinking it has to be perfect is why she said she hasn't launched. That if I weren't in partnership, I don't think Paper Monday would exist. I don't think people would associate me with all of the great work that Raj and I have been able to do together because I really used to get caught up on those things. I used to really get caught up on like what things look like, what people would think about it, like if I could make this change in direction, like, and a lot of those things Raj just doesn't bother with. It just doesn't bother him. He's like, I'm doing this now, And so I have to say, like, not that that's just my blessing. I'm saying like community or partnership is really huge in terms of like wellness and like you're saying, elevating every day. Is having someone who's like a touch point for you, who can hear you out and listen to you. And that can be spiritual. It doesn't even have to be like an actual person. It can be journaling. It can be one's like spiritual practice, one's wellness practice, meditation practice can do that. But I think that's just so important to not be in your own head and mind and body and trying to do a thing. because we are so limited. Like, we're limited when it comes to the like vast capability that we have and the possibility that we have. We are like just physically limited. We can't do any of those things by ourselves. Like, if we wanted to go to Europe, we'd have to, if we want to go to Asia, if we want to go to Africa, if we want to travel, we'd have to rely on so many other people's ideas and efforts to get us over there, even though it would be our trip and we'd get we'd be credited with like taking that journey. So I would just say find that partnership for anybody. That's number one. What's helped me elevate and helps me elevate every day is not being on my own and not doing it in my own strength.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, both of you. First of all, thank you so much for sharing, being vulnerable to do that. I think that that's important.